Presenting Deo's Blender Tools. This includes a comprehensive module with multiple tools for baking, texturing, exporting maps, and more, similar to Substance Painter. Also includes custom layouts, shortcuts and settings, and useful free add-ons. All these features are designed to accelerate workflows and ensure smooth transitions from other 3D software like Maya or similar tools. How to install it? Simply close Blender, download the installer from the Deo's tool website, and follow the installation instructions. Once completed, the next time you open Blender, you'll see a new panel with the current version of the tool. Although you will be able to switch between Blender Vanilla and Deo's tool mode. Additionally, you'll receive notifications if a new version is available. The new work environment from Maya's users. You'll retain the same workflow for navigating the viewer and gain hotboxes, similar to Maya, for accessing common options in Blender. At the top, you'll find multiple tabs tailored for various tasks, including modeling, unwrapping, sculpting, geometry nodes, baking, shading, texturing, animation, rigging, rendering, video editing, and even writing tools. Let's start using the main texturing module from the Deo's tools. At the top, switch to Baker tab, and use Cycles as the rendering engine, and enable the GPU option to accelerate the baking calculations. And here you will get the list of baking tools. Bakers, the map to map. This model comes from photogrammetry and has more than 19,000 triangles. To improve performance in video games, it's important to optimize the model by reducing the number of triangles and improving the unwrapping to maximize the coverage of pixel information. And use a big 4K texture. Now, with the new model topology and a better optimized unwrapping, you can load the source mesh and the target mesh to bake the new 2K texture. Add the materials to both the source and target meshes using the materials buttons. In the source material, you can use directly a texture or use a texture arrays using RGB channels to bake into the new model. Use the texture slot to create a new texture with a specific size as needed. Remember to check the inverted normals, then just bake and adjust the cage size if you encounter any issues with the baking. In the end, you will get a new texture on the new mesh with the updated unwrapping. Bakers, the map to vertex. Let's switch to map to vertex. We have two meshes, the original and the second one with a high-density topology. Let's apply the smooth modifier. Now load the source and target meshes into their respective slots, apply the materials, and load the map to bake in vertex onto the other mesh. Also check the inverted normals. No UV maps are needed for the high poly mesh, only the color attribute that the tool will create for us. If you encounter any issues with the baking, remember to increase the cage value. The result is a new high-density mesh ready to import into Unreal Engine using Nanite. Bakers, the vertex to map. Now we have the opposite task, transferring vertex colors from a high vertex mesh into a texture map. Let's switch to vertex to map. The source mesh contains vertex colors, but no UV map, while the target mesh must be prepared with a UV map, ready for baking. So, let's repeat the same process as in the other bakes. Load the meshes and materials, adjust the cage, and simply bake it. In the end, you'll get a beautiful baked map ready to go and save it. Bakers, the materials to map or ID color. You need better performance because you have a model with multiple materials and a bunch of textures. And now the target is one mesh, one material, one UV map. The target mesh needs a UV layout. From there, the process is the same. Load the meshes and use the bake process. The result will be just one map baked successfully. Bakers, the Vertex Passes. In this case, we have a high-density mesh, where we want to store color information. Let's switch to Vertex Passes and continue using the same pipeline so far. This in order to load and apply material. Now, this will bring a great shader that will calculate and bake multiple properties in real time and store them in Vertex Color. This will allow you to export it in Unreal Engine using Nanite, enabling you to create special shaders utilizing this pass information stored in Vertex Color. You can use either EV or Cycles Render to see the result in real time. You will not need to calculate and check if it's what you need, as you will immediately see the effect of each parameter. You can calculate curvature, ambient occlusion, position, dust on top, thickness, and cavity directly into your Vertex Color. Now let's bake multiple passes into one Vertex Color, using each RGB channel. Once the bake process is done, you can view the result in RGB or per channel to see the individual properties stored in Vertex Color. Bakers. The map passes. Now let's bake maps from a high poly to a low poly mesh. Simply switch to map passes and begin using the normal map baker option. Use a collection group to store multiple high poly meshes, then load the low poly mesh and add the material template. Select the desired map size and adjust the cage as needed, and bake the normal map. This will create the needed nodes to view the normal map. Modify the cage value as you need, and also use Shaded Smooth to calculate a proper normal map and see the result. Now, switch from the normal to the Pass Map option. From the panel, you can directly select which output you want to bake, such as curvature, ambient occlusion, position, dust, thickness, or cavity. Image Tools, Curvature Map and Texture Arrays. Now, save the normal map and switch to the Image Tool tab at the top. Here, you can load the normal map and automatically convert it into a curvature map, so click on the viewer node that you want to see on the right panel. Even you can make change to the texture in real time to get the best curvature map. In the bottom panel, you can load multiple textures on each slot to create a single texture array in one shot, using RGB channels and even the alpha channel as well. Deo's texture nodes, using the layered materials. Using the shader editor, you'll find a panel on the right side. This contains a library to help you texture anything you need. First, start using the material layered. You just need to connect the properties to the principal material. This layered material is divided into base and overlay, allowing you to use two different materials. Also, you can use blend modes to mix two textures slots, and you will get the most common outputs to mix. Also, you can use from generators the AO node that allows you use a normal map to create an ambient occlusion. But remember to use in normal maps the non-color space. You can also use common blender nodes like Color Ramp to create a black and white texture, which can be used as a roughness map. A handy trick to improve your node pipeline is to create node groups from selected nodes. Simply press Ctrl+G to group them, making your workflow more organized and efficient. From the UV section, you can access the Tile node, allowing you to control the tiling of any texture slot. Now, let's use the Overlay section, following the same pipeline as before, to visualize either the base or overlay material. To decide which material to visualize, go to the Layered Materials section and adjust the slider, or hook a texture mask to visualize each material. Here, you can control the intensity of the normal map for both materials, the base and the overlay, and simulate that the overlay is mixed on the height of the bricks. You can also manipulate whether the overlay material or surface will show signs of wear. Deo's texture nodes, using the Materials Mixer. Now let's jump to use the main material called Material Mixer. This also simulates mixing two materials, but it has fewer parameters to manipulate and also use most of the texture nodes from the library panel. Let's focus on using the Blend Mixer and Mask nodes to create the base color. The Blend Mask node requires a simple mask, which can come from a texture or using Vertex Color. Using the Blend Mixer will allow you to multiply, add screen overlay, or subtract between the base and overlay colors. Now, use the Smart Mask Dirty, which allows you to automatically create a grunge texture mask. Deo's Texture Nodes, using the normal map nodes. There will be times when you need to combine two normal maps. In this case, let's use the Normal Combine node. This will merge the base and overlay normal maps into a single map, and you can also control their intensities. Another useful node is when you need to add extra detail to a baked normal map using a separate normal map from a texture. In this case, let's bring the Normal Baked Detailed node. Also, you can add a great intensity to the detailed map. Deo's Texture Nodes Straight Pipeline. Using Deo's Texture Nodes allows you to texture inside Blender similar to how you would with Substance software. However, this is more efficient because your entire pipeline remains within the same software. You can modify the mesh, UVs, sculpting, or any other process, and the changes will be reflected in real time. Deo's Exporter Maps. Now, let's switch to the Exporter tab and enable the Exporter Maps tool. Here, you can load the mesh to bake its texture pipeline in the shader editor and select the passes you need to export. Use the same name as the mesh, or you can customize one. Select the size and format, as well as how many pixels of edge padding you want, and specify a path location to store the baked maps. And that's it. Just press the button to bake the maps and see the result.